Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report with Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome into the pod. How you doing?
Well, I've had better Mondays, to be honest, Drew. I got my ass kicked yesterday, unfortunately, and that means my clients got my ass kicked yesterday, or got their asses kicked, and that's never any fun to lose and to burn. So I've had better Mondays. All that being said, there's some interesting stuff to talk about. I think there's some pretty good opportunities on the card this week, and as we know, Drew, one thing about being in this business for 20-something years is, sometimes you get slapped and it hurts and you hate that day and you get up the next day and you do what you do. And that's what we're doing right here. So for as crappy as yesterday was, brand new day. It's a brand new week, and there's a lot of opportunities, like I said, on this week's card, including some games where the market numbers and my powering numbers appear to be very different. So lots to talk about on today's pod.
Teddy, well said. And the guys that are saying each and every week is a profitable week are either lying to you or haven't been doing this long enough. Teddy Covers. He, off of a down week, maybe a buy low opportunity. 56% in the NFL since 2015. That's last 5 years. So keep that in mind. He knows his NFL, and this is the Opening Line Report each and every Monday throughout NFL season, where we're talking on Monday about this same time. So check us out at sportsmemo.com, wherever you're getting your podcasts downloaded, and also on YouTube. We got it simulcast video style there. But Teddy, we got the Monday Nighter tonight. Any quick thoughts here? Minnesota and Seattle. We're seeing the Seahawks laying 3 at home. Tough place to play here, Teddy. Total of 48.5, pretty much across the board. Any quick thoughts on the Vikings and Seahawks tonight?
Well, I mean, if you're betting the trends, you're on Seattle. Seattle's 18-2 in home time prime games since hiring Pete Carroll. That's a pretty good track record. The Vikings are 0-13 with a push since 2016 outdoors against an opponent with a winning record. So the trends are pointing towards Seattle pretty clearly. All that said, if you want to ask, and it's incredible because I didn't even think about it. You say who's the best quarterback in the NFL over the last 2 months? 15 names will come up before Kirk Cousins. You know what Cousins has done over the last 2 months?
I'm guessing it's good.
73% completions in 7 games.
That's good.
More than 2,000 yards during that span, so averaging close to 300 yards per game. More than 9 yards per pass attempt, and an 18-1 touchdown to interception ratio.
Wow,
that's pretty good. And the Seahawks. Clowney's not playing tonight. He's their best, outside rusher. It doesn't look like Jarran Reed is going to be able to go tonight. He's their best interior rusher. So that being said, they're misleading stats for Seattle as well. Seattle's season-long run stats, you say, they can't stop the run. Look at those numbers. Look at Seattle over the last 5 weeks. They've shut down everybody they faced on the ground, and that includes Baltimore and San Francisco, 2 elite-level rushing teams. Seahawks defense didn't give up 100 yards to either one of those 2 squads on the ground. So I think there's a legit case to be made for Seattle. I'm closer to the Seattle side than the Minnesota side. On a week where I didn't see things clearly, I'm not rushing the window to bet the Seahawks, but that's the only way I would look this evening.
All right, good breakdown there for the Monday listeners. And Teddy, we got the Thursday night card here, but for the Monday night, we got a bunch of plays up on it, both sides and totals at sportsmemo.com. It is $9 Monday, so check out the website, sportsmemo.com. But starting the Opening Line Report here for the Thursday nighter here, Teddy, 101-102, the rotation number, Dallas at Chicago. We're seeing the Cowboys laying 2.5 or 3, depending where you're shopping. This one on the road in Soldier Field, 42.5 being the total, Teddy.
So the number one goal of the Monday podcast is always the same. We want to talk about where we expect the lines to move, why we expect them to move in that direction, talk about whether you want to make bets now or whether you want to wait till later in the week. That's the point. I'll give you a look-ahead line. That was a bettable number last week for this week's games. I used the Westgate Superbook numbers. There are many others and numbers out there, but I've used the Westgate Superbook numbers for years, so I'll continue to use them. I'll also give you my powering number for each one of these games. And last but not least, I like to give you, we call them emergency betting alerts,
yes,
where we don't expect this line to hold. And this is one of those games, okay? The look-ahead line here was Dallas -3, -120. All right. My powering number has the Cowboys minus a half a point. You can call that a pick 'em -20. You can call that a 1. either way. The market's sitting now. There are 3s out there. There are 2.5s out there. The Bears are coming off a win they needed. Admittedly, it wasn't pretty against Detroit, but they got the win they needed. Dallas, the box score looked good against Buffalo. Of course, that's what's going to happen when you're trailing throughout and you pass the ball around. But I cannot anticipate. I do not think this line holds at 3. If you like the Bears, let's get the music. Doodly-oop, doodly-oop, doodly-oop. Get the 3 right now. This looks like it's going down to 2.5. And when we look at Dallas's seed, 6-6, must-win games for the Cowboys. They had a must-win game at home last week. Didn't do all that good. I can't imagine the market's going to be super excited about the Cowboys going into Chicago in conditions. The line's not going higher than 3. Okay, if you like Chicago, grab a 3 now, put it in your pocket. And again, my number here shorter. The look-ahead line higher, but based on what we just saw again from the Cowboys on national TV, I can understand the adjustment here from the markets off of the two teams' performances on Thanksgiving Day.
All right, Teddy, moving on to the Sunday card. December 8th here, top of the Sunday card, 131-132 Baltimore at Buffalo. We're seeing the Ravens minus 5.5 on the road. Chris showing a 6. We're seeing 44 or 43.5 being the total right now, Teddy.
All right, so I need to talk a little bit about Baltimore. The look-ahead line here was Baltimore minus 7. I currently have the Baltimore Ravens power rated as the number 1 team in the NFL. The win yesterday over San Fran on a game where Lamar Jackson did not throw the ball well. That was an impressive victory for Baltimore. Another impressive victory from the hottest team in the NFL. I've got the Ravens ranked number 1. I moved them ahead of New England after last night's game. My number with Baltimore as the number 1 team in the NFL is Ravens minus 2.5. Okay. Oh. So there's a disconnect here between my Buffalo number and the market's Buffalo number. And the markets are saying that everything that we're seeing from the Bills is a mirage and Josh Allen can't do anything and the Bills defense is a joke and you can't bet against Baltimore. But again, my number's way shorter than the market number, and I've got the Ravens as the best team in the NFL. So I know the issue is with my power rating for Buffalo versus the market power rating for Buffalo, and being off market on Buffalo hasn't hurt me in recent weeks. And I continue to look at the Bills as being, the Bills are 1 game out of the AFC East, first place in AFC East. If they beat New England, they're in first place tie with the Patriots, okay? I'm not selling the Bills short, and the markets appear to be doing so, although the betting bandwagon for Baltimore is enormous. And the fact that they found a way to win yesterday's game, despite the fact that Jackson didn't throw the ball particularly well, certainly merits some respect, but this is a little bit more respect than I'm willing to give the Ravens. I'll just put it that way. My number here is significantly shorter than the market on a Monday morning.
And, Teddy, do you think that this number, does this happen in the NFL where the odds makers are shading this much off of the power rating just because the Ravens are kind of a trendy bet here? And the Bills are more kind of under the radar good in the NFL? Do the sports books go that far off of their power rating, or is this strictly you versus them having differences in your power rating?
I don't try to make a market power rating. I try to make my power rating. The books have to make a market power rating. You understand?
Yeah. So
the market power rating on Buffalo is not as high as my power rating on Buffalo, and it's just that simple.
Okay.
Whether they're shading or whether I'm shading, we have different opinions about where the Buffalo Bills should be power rated, and maybe different on Baltimore as well. I've got the Ravens a half point better, than the number 2 team. I've got a bunch of teams now, near the top in the NFL without a significant differential, and the markets maybe I wouldn't be surprised at all if you talk to a bookmaker, and I'll have a chance to do that later today. We talk to a bookmaker and say, our power rating of the Ravens is 2 points higher than everyone else in the NFL right now. But that's just not where my number is.
All right, Teddy, good stuff. Starting off here, the Sunday card, 133-134, second game up, Washington at Green Bay. We're seeing the Packers laying, about 13, I would say, is the prevailing number. There is 13.5 out there, also 12.5s out there as well. 42 being the total, Teddy.
Look headline here was Green Bay minus 14.5. My powering number only comes Packers minus 11. And I have raised the Redskins. I've raised them fairly significantly off the back-to-back wins. This is when you have a dead team that plays football in December, you make money with those teams. And the Redskins are being priced like a dead team, and clearly they're not. And remember what happened yesterday. They took a punch early against Carolina. They were down 14-0. They could have laid down in that game, okay, and no one would have said anything. Last place team laying down, blah, 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 blah. No big deal. You get smacked early. But they didn't. They fought, and they ran the football. Green Bay doesn't stop the run, okay? The win over the Giants yesterday was Aaron Rodgers playing great, which he's capable of doing off of, a shoddy showing in his previous game against a very bad pass defense. And the Giants making the type of mistakes that they've been making and turning the ball over like they've done on a very consistent basis. Daniel Jones isn't protecting the football. Now, Dwayne Haskins is not going to carry the the Redskins from behind at Lambeau again. Haskins isn't there yet. But I don't know that he's ever going to be there, but he's certainly not there right now. But if you're talking about running the football, the Redskins can run, and the Packers can't stop the run, and that tends to bode well for double-digit dogs. I would not be surprised at all if we see some wise guy money on Washington this week. And we're already seeing signs of that. Penny at 13, even money, circa 12.5 on this game. I wouldn't. I don't see the Packers getting back to 2 TDs.
Yeah, under the radar teams, Teddy, in the NFL, really in any sport, when you start getting to the end of the season that have not quit and still playing hard, man, that's a profile I like to be on, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, the Redskins have certainly shown bet on potential. And what they showed me yesterday was this is a bet on team. And they can run the football. That's what you want to talk about what Callahan's teams want to do. They want to ground and pound, and that's a vulnerability for that Green Bay Packers defense.
Teddy, a game we were watching yesterday, Denver and the Chargers. We're seeing Denver here at Houston. Houston laying 9.5 pretty much across the board, 42 the total. Denver looked good out the gate against the Chargers. Strong team here, catching almost doubles. You interested in backing the Broncos?
Look ahead line here, Texans minus 7.5. My powering number is Texans minus 10. I'm fairly high on Houston, and certainly their showing yesterday against New England was pretty impressive. Start to finish. And I know, and again, the box score in that game, you can throw it out completely because, after they were way down, the Patriots had 3 nice touchdown drives. Oh, wow, look at New England's yards per play. When the game was competitive, the Texans completely dominated that contest. This is not necessarily their role. And Houston coming off, it's been a series of big games and tight games. They had the win over the Colts and then the win over the Patriots, and I don't know that they're the team that I'm excited about laying doubles with. The Broncos with Locke at QB yesterday, they weren't good, but they were okay, and they were good enough to win, and they got the pass interference call they needed at the end of the game to save them, and they got the stops they needed to save them in that game and not giving up the touchdown. So I don't view that necessarily as a buy sign for the Broncos. I don't know that I want Locke in his first road start, but I don't think the markets are going to be too excited about the Texans this week, given their historical struggles covering double digits in the Bill O'Brien era and given the, in theory, letdown spot for Houston off back-to-back huge wins.
Teddy, we got San Francisco at New Orleans up next, seeing the Saints laying 2.5 in the Big Easy, 44 being the total here.
Yeah, look-ahead line here with Saints minus 3. My powering number is Saints minus 3.5. The markets are at 2.5, 3. San Fran impressed the hell out of me yesterday. I thought they played a great game, and they ran the football effectively against Baltimore. They did a decent job of stopping the run. They did an excellent job of stopping the pass, although some of that was Jackson being off. They moved the football reasonably well, although the second half it was such a short game. They only had 3 possessions in the second half, so that left them with the inability to do a whole lot on offense. They almost scored a field goal after the break, but you certainly shouldn't, and I won't downgrade the 49ers off that performance. I thought it was good. Whereas the Saints, I do worry about the older quarterbacks as the season progresses. And the Saints, they got the win and cover against Atlanta, and that was Atlanta turning the ball over in a way that the Falcons have been doing. But New Orleans, the offense didn't click. The defense got stops when they had to. But you can see a little market disrespect creeping into New Orleans right now with this at 2.5. Like I said, my powering number is 3.5. I haven't downgraded New Orleans in any real way since Breeze came back. I've kept them almost in the exact same spot. The markets appear to be downgrading New Orleans at least a little bit right now as a team that may not be as good as their record would indicate, a team that may not have as good a December as they had September, October, and November.
Teddy, two teams up next, man. This is an interesting handicap. Cincinnati at Cleveland. We're seeing the Browns laying 9, seeing even an 8.5 out there and a 9.5. This is at home for the Browns, 42 being the total, Teddy.
Yeah, look ahead line here, Browns 10.5. My powering number, Browns 9.5. Although I didn't downgrade Cleveland based on the injury to Baker Mayfield. That clearly affected him in the second half of that game. You know, Mayfield hit his hand on a helmet right before halftime. Garrett Gilbert came in and ran a series, and then Mayfield came back in the second half and was largely ineffective. Some of that's Pittsburgh's defense, but I can say this: the Browns aren't a team I'm excited about laying this price. And as you see, the markets, they're not crashing on Cleveland, but again, there are a couple books open 10.5 here, and ain't no 10.5s there anymore. As for the Bengals, look. I'll give Cincy credit in a couple of different ways. One, they protected Andy Dalton yesterday, which, that's been a miserable offensive line. All year it's been a miserable offensive line. And look, the Jets were no-shows, so we don't want to put too much in on Cincinnati. But Dalton got the ball out of his hands fast, and the offensive line, and the announcers even said it a couple times, this might be the best game they had all year. Is that a buy sign for Cincy? I'm not convinced that it is. Do you want the team that just got off the schneid with their first win of the season in Week 13? You want to catch them taking points in Week 14? It is a divisional foe, and the Browns aren't necessarily a favorite that people are excited about. I would anticipate we might see some more Cincy money. We've already seen some in early week play, and this didn't make emergency betting alert because we're not talking about a key number. If if you're talking about, all right, well, I didn't get the 9.5, can I take 8.5 now? You can. It's very different. The emergency bet alerts, I'm always worried about the key numbers, the 3s, the 7s. And that's where I tend to focus. But if you like the dog here on Cincy, the Mayfield injury is definitely affecting the number. The fact that Browns lost yesterday in a must-win game. And Kitchens did something stupid to rile up the Steelers the night before. It's not a Cleveland team I'm excited about laying points with down the stretch. Let's just put it that way.
He's Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. And guys, you can get the rest of his NFL and college football season at sportsmemo.com, over $100 off using the coupon code TC299 at checkout, sportsmemo.com. And as we're getting into bowl season here, guys, college football, it's kind of a different handicap here, and Teddy Covers has had success in bowl season of late, 9-4 his last 13 bowl games, and that's 31-21 over the last 4 years during bowl season in college football. And breaking it down, to bowl season, because in my opinion, they are different types of handicaps here. And Teddy Covers has had a great read on bowl season, hitting 60%. That's 31-21 the last 4 years in college football bowl season. You'll get the rest of his NFL season all the way through the Super Bowl with the Super Bowl props package, which he's had huge success with as well. Always a fun time for sports bettors, all the way through the national championship in college football, all the way through the Super Bowl. TC299 at checkout for the rest of his college football NFL full season package at sportsmemo.com. Teddy, next game up, heading down to the NFC South. We got Carolina at Atlanta. Falcons laying anywhere from 2 to 3 in Mercedes-Benz at home in the ATL, 48 being the total, Teddy.
Yeah, we don't talk a lot about totals. I do want to talk about that. I realized that I didn't talk on the Monday show because we don't have weather forecasts, any of that sort of thing. There has been a significant move to the under in that Cincy-Cleveland game, for what it's worth, already on Monday morning. So be aware with that total. When it comes to Carolina and Atlanta, look ahead line here. I believe I have Atlanta -1. Or was that Carolina -1? I apologize. I just wrote a 1, and I can't see which team I put it in front of. I'll try to look it up, but when we're on the pod, I can't do it, and that's it. Unacceptable, Ted. I'm sorry. I'm not sure which team was favored by 1. The bottom line is my powering number had Atlanta favored by 1.5, and right now the market's in the 2.5 range for the Falcons. They're crashing on Carolina right now. The dogs are barking on Ron Rivera. The Panthers have now lost 3. They were in playoff contention, and they've lost 3 in a row. And, they had that close loss at Green Bay, and then back-to-back, bad home loss. And yesterday was a bad home loss. When you lead Washington 14-0 at home and you lose that game. McCaffrey only 14 attempts in yesterday's ball game. There's not likely to be a lot of market support for Carolina, and we're clearly seeing that in the early betting numbers. The line's already moved. If you like Atlanta, I'd get there sooner rather than later. And again, from how well do they play the game perspective, the Falcons did exactly what they've done all year at home against New Orleans on Thanksgiving night. They moved the ball. They didn't score touchdowns. They didn't create turnovers, and they turned the ball over themselves. They committed penalties. It's that's what Atlanta has been doing on a pretty consistent basis, and they've been every bit as bad at home, if not worse, than they have been on the highway. So. Not a team that I'm particularly excited about laying a price with at home, although Carolina right now, again, the markets are crashing, and we're seeing it in front of our eyes. Atlanta could easily get to 3 here. And I know the line holds at 3. There are a couple of 3s out there now for Carolina. And, if you like the Panthers, I might grab one of those 3s. 2.5, 3. It's going up. I don't know that it holds at 3, which is why if you get a 3, there's one at the bookmaker right now. Minus 115 or minus 118 or something like that. I'm not convinced that'll be there. Bovada has one too. I'm not convinced that those will be there. 2.5 feels like the number for this game.
Teddy, we got 143, 144 up next. Detroit at Minnesota. Seeing some early numbers out there. 42.5 being the total. 14. The Vikings laying at home. Of course, a limited marketplace here with the Vikings playing tonight in Monday Night Football.
Yeah, for what it's worth, my powering number on this game pre-Monday Night Football is Vikings minus 13.5. The Lions found another way to lose on Thanksgiving, kept the game competitive. They have been fairly competitive with the divisional foes of late. And again, 13.5 is my pre-Monday Night Football powering number. Will obviously adjust Minnesota on what we see this evening.
Teddy, we got AFC East rivalry. Miami at the New York Jets, seeing Jets minus 6 in MetLife. 44 the total here, Teddy.
Look headline here, Jets minus 7.5. My powering number is Jets minus 7. And the Jets played a terrible game yesterday, all right, which, bad teams can do on the road late in the season. After winning, playing good football each of the 3 previous weeks. I would not be surprised to see the Jets bounce back here. Remember, the Dolphins beat them earlier. They've just played another bad game at Miami earlier in the season, and everyone freaked out on Gase and everyone freaked out on everything, and they came back and played good football for the better part of the next month. So I don't think the Jets' loss yesterday means the Jets are stick a fork in them. I do think that we'll see a reasonable team down the stretch of the campaign for the Jets, not a team that's mailed it in. All that said, I mean, some of it was coin flips coming up right for Miami. They had 2 fourth down plays yesterday in the first half where one might say that the chances of a completed pass, let alone a touchdown pass, were limited. And they got touchdowns on both of them. Devontae Parker made an insane catch that was as perfectly defended as you can, and then streaked down the sidelines for the TD. And then the bizarre play where I don't know why Peterson didn't call a timeout, but the bizarre trick play where the kicker threw to the punter or whatever it was, that kept Miami in the game. Even with that, Miami's down 28-14. After the first drive of the second half, Philly's supposed to close that game out easy. And all Fitzpatrick kept on dropping back the pass and, hey, having fun. Miami had fun yesterday. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like Washington, when you have a bad team that's having fun, playing hard down the stretch, they're alive. I don't see the Dolphins laying down against the Jets, and Fitzpatrick continues to give them a fighting chance in every game. So I can understand why, even though the look ahead was 7.5, my powering is 7. I can understand why the markets are shorter than it is. And than my numbers. Miami, when you have a bad team playing with life against a divisional foe catching points, they oftentimes attract some betting attention.
Good stuff, Teddy. And we got 10 a.m. Pacific kick, last one here. Indianapolis at Tampa Bay. Looks like the Bucks laying 2.5 or 3 at home. 48 the total in Raymond James.
Yeah, look ahead line here was Tampa 1. My power running number is Tampa 2.5. And it looks, I'm not sure if this line's going to hold at 3. I'm really not. If you like the Indy side, I wouldn't hesitate to grab the 3 right now if you can. There's a lot to talk about here. The Colts yesterday, the game turns on Adam Vinatieri, blocked field goal that goes back the other way. Instead of Indy with a 3-point lead, it's Tennessee with a 7-point lead. That said, Vinatieri's cost him a bunch of games this year.
Oh, yeah.
I remember coming on and saying he's just cost him back-to-back games. Now you say it's 3, and your kicker can't cost you that many games. Okay. And when you're losing these winnable home games, and now you got a losing record and going on there. What are they? 6-6? Are they a 500 team going on the road? There's a lot I like about Brissett. Okay, there's a lot I like about the Colts defense. I am a big Frank Reich fan, but Indy's not that good right now. And there was a lot of market support for Tampa yesterday. They merited all of it. There was market support for Tampa the last week. They merited that game as well. And admittedly a different role for the Bucs, but for Tampa, you make an argument Tampa's the best team with a losing record in the NFL right now. You can make a legit argument, and for all the mistakes Winston has made, Winston is also finding a rhythm with his receivers, and the defense is making plays. And you look at the season-long numbers, say they can't stop the pass, and it's true. You look at the recent numbers, and they can. The run defense has been there all year. Again, I'm not convinced the line holds at 3, but it might. And even though my numbers are shorter, there's appears to be this looks like a case of two teams headed in opposite directions going into December.
Teddy, next game up, we got the L.A. Chargers, not to be mistaken for the San Diego Chargers, at the Jacksonville Jaguars. 43 the total. Chargers laying 2.5 or 3 on the East Coast.
Yeah, and this is a pick your poison game on the one sense. On the other sense, well, here, let's just start with this. Look ahead line here was Chargers -1. My powering number is Chargers -2.5, only because I keep downgrading L.A. But Jacksonville's no-show yesterday was the big no-show. They had, not that the 3 previous times in a row they hadn't shown up, but yesterday was their back at home for the first time in a month. Foles is saying all the right things. Leadership. I need to show leadership. I went buying into what, the markets crashed on Jacksonville last week. And then they proceeded to be, complete no-shows, and Foles is benched at halftime. And after the game, there were reports of offense and defense fighting physically in the locker room. There's nothing to like about the Jags right now. Okay. And it looks like Marone's going to be out. And, it's so the markets have crashed on the Jags, and yet the Chargers still aren't laying 3 here, which tells you what the markets are thinking about L.A., who, all they do is find ways to win or lose games. We say, Rivers on the road in December. Yeah, all that. It's worth noting this isn't an early start time for L.A., so that's at least something of a benefit in their favor. And, for as bad as the Chargers have been in terms of wins and losses, they've been competitive in every game, as opposed to the Jags, who've just been blown out 4 weeks in a row. Jacksonville is I'm assuming Minshew will be back behind center this week, and maybe they get a boost from that. But the markets are not excited about Jacksonville right now, and after losing money with them yesterday, I don't blame them.
Teddy, next game up, a big one, possible playoff matchup here, but we're seeing it this week. Kansas City at New England. We're seeing the Patriots -3 in Gillette, 48.5 the prevailing total right now.
I'm trying. Did these two teams play? Did they play in the AFC Championship game last year, or was it the week before? I can't remember. Anyhow, the Patriots won at Arrowhead.
Yeah,
didn't they?
Yeah. Well, they won. I can't remember which round it was either. I'll look it up as you're talking.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. So it is playoff revenge for what it's worth for Kansas City. And, of course, New England's coming off a shoddy showing in which Tom Brady looked very old against the Texans last night. And, again, where New England dominated in the game, and they get a handful of touchdowns late to make things respectable and make the box score look better than it was. There are issues with New England, right now. And then when you put up a ridiculous statistical profile over the first half of the campaign by facing one patsy after the next, then now you're seeing, and again, you can blame the offensive line, you can blame the receiving corps, you can blame the oldest starting quarterback in the NFL. But, right now, New England's offense isn't working. And obviously, Kansas City's offense is working. All that said, again, look ahead was 4. My powering number is 3.5. And if you want a strategy for losing money, bet against New England in Foxborough in December, right. As a short chalk. So, yeah, maybe the Patriots are done, and maybe it was all a fraud. And I certainly, much of what Kansas City did yesterday was Oakland playing about as bad a game as you can play. I'm sure the Chiefs come into it circled. I'm also sure that this line is, it feels a little bit short. I'll just put it that way at 3. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point this week, and I'm just looking at the markets right now, and I'm not seeing any indication it's going to happen. But I wouldn't be shocked if we see some New England money between now and kickoff.
And it was the championship round. We had the Patriots 37, Chiefs 31, final in overtime, Teddy.
That's what it was. They got the kick in OT and scored, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just a little reminder here, Chargers and Patriots in the divisional round, Patriots 41-28 and Chiefs 31, Colts 13 in the divisional round as well to make it to the championship round there, Teddy.
Cool. Keep them coming, man. It's funny because if you give me the game, I'm like, that happened in this game, that happened in this game, that happened in this game. I remember it all. But you ask me like what week it was, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way, Teddy. But just a nice reminder there. We got Pittsburgh at Arizona up next. Steelers 2.5 or 3 on the road. 43.5 the total in the desert, Teddy.
And I'm not convinced this gets to 3. So I'm not giving an emergency betting alert here. Look ahead line was pick on my powering numbers 2.5. Obviously, the Steelers responded well to adversity yesterday, and Duck Hodges made all the plays, et cetera, and their defense killed it, which is what it's been doing all year. All that said, the quotes out of Arizona was really the first time. I'm trying to remember if there was another game that Cards let go of the rope. They let go of the rope yesterday. It was the worst game that they played all year, and no one was happy about it. Kingsbury was furious after the game. Murray was furious after the game, although it's worth noting Murray's not 100%. There was a hamstring injury. He did not look right at any point in yesterday's game. He had a bad interception. He didn't run the football. That's something that is worth monitoring. And the only way this does get to 3, I think, across the board is if there is something, with Murray where he's not practicing this week. But from a spot standpoint, Pittsburgh must win. Arizona hungry off a loss. Fascinating game. I don't know that it gets to 3 across the board.
And Teddy, just real quick, you say Arizona hungry off of a loss. How much of the argument do you think could be made to Arizona quitting on the season?
None.
Okay.
None. Arizona they came out of the bye. They didn't play well.
Okay.
Arizona. I mean, if they get bombed at home this week, maybe we worry about that. But I don't. I didn't get the sense of that even from watching the game or from reading the quotes afterwards.
Teddy, we got Tennessee at Oakland, last afternoon game here. We've seen the Titans 3 on the road. That's -3 on the highway. 46.5 the total here, Teddy.
So the look-ahead line here was pick 'em. And these two teams played one game since then, and now it's Tennessee -3. My powering number is Tennessee -1.5. And there's certainly a part of me that thinks that the adjustment here is warranted and appropriate. Oakland played a god-awful game, and they came back the next week and played a god-awful game. And again, they were playing for first place in the AFC West. And before halftime, they had 7 penalties, 3 turnovers. I can go on and on down the list. The missed field. The Raiders did nothing right. And to be that out of it in a game where they were just that out of it the previous week, that was not a get right spot for Oakland, but it was a step up spot for Oakland, and they lay down instead of stepping up. Now, Arrowhead's been bad. They are returning home. They have played better at home. All that said, it's a defense that's struggling and an offense that hasn't been able to get out of their own way in recent week. And Tennessee, man, you talk about a team coming on like a freight train with Tannehill, and again, yesterday, the red zone efficiency is there. Remember, we talked about this? I forget, it was a week or two ago. And I'm like, there should be some regression here from Tannehill in the red zone. It's been 10 possessions and 10 touchdowns. I think they've only had 1 or 2 field goals in the red zone since then. I mean, it's been touchdown, 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 touchdown. That's what Tennessee's been doing. I like the quotes out of that team. I like what I'm reading about that team. There's a lot of buy signs on Tennessee right now. The special teams are making plays. Yesterday, the biggest play of the game coming from special team. They're buying into Vrabel. They found a quarterback. The running game, Henry's numbers in November and December are tremendous. The offensive line got eaten up early in that game and played much better over the back half. So I can even though my powering number here is only 1.5, I can understand why the markets are on 3 on Tennessee, and I can understand why this line has moved a full field goal from the look-ahead line last week. These are, the results on Sunday were significant, and they were the result of 2 teams that are heading in opposite directions right now. Although, again, in theory, it's a get-right spot for the Raiders, and Tennessee is a borderline playoff team, which is exactly where they've been, in recent years. They'd be a borderline playoff team. So I don't look at the Titans, this team's going to the Super Bowl. No, they're a borderline playoff team.
Teddy, 2 more big games up next. But, guys, remember the coupon code TC299 at checkout. That's TC299 at checkout. For Teddy covers rest of NFL college football full season at sportsmemo.com. That's over $100 off. Coupon code TC299 at checkout. He's 31-21 his last 4 years for bowl season, which is starting. You'll also get championship Saturday as well. That's 31-21 last 4 years, 60% college football bowl season. You'll get all of those plays. 9-4 his last 13 releases college football bowl season. You'll get the rest of his NFL full season. He's sitting 56% over the last 5 years. Bounce back mode right now for Teddy covers rest of NFL college football full season at sportsmemo.com using the coupon code TC299 at checkout. Teddy, the Sunday nighter, limited marketplace here with the Seahawks playing tonight. We got Seattle at the LA Rams. Seahawks minus 2.5 in the Coliseum. 46 the total, Teddy.
Now note, this is worth noting, the Seahawks look-ahead line was -3, -120. All right, now the books that have it up have it at 2.5.
And they haven't even played yet this week.
Exactly. That's all on the Rams. That's the Rams moving, not 3 -10, not 3 even money, down to 2.5. That's like 3 notches there that they moved the Rams based on yesterday's results.
Big move.
I agree with that assessment. My powering number for the game is pick'em. And I dropped the Rams down prior to yesterday's game, and I moved them right back up. What did we see yesterday from LA? I mean, I don't think, again, you go through all the teams that play this week. I don't think there was a team that played a better game than the Rams. They came out hungry, and again, their receiving core was banged up. 2 weeks ago at home, Goff had no rhythm with his receivers. Against Arizona, Arizona's got a bad pass defense, but all of a sudden there's Robert Woods making plays, and that's what that offense has missed all year is the diversity of the receivers, Cook's making plays. So now it's Goff with a passing game that's working. And I think you have to adjust LA accordingly. And like I said, my numbers pick them. And if the Seahawks look good tonight, maybe it comes back to 3. But even Seahawks come good tonight, I don't know if it comes to 3. I think the market saw what LA did yesterday and respected it accordingly. And again, if the Seahawks don't look good tonight, my pick'em power rating for this game may make a little bit more sense than it looks right now. But I absolutely raised LA off of yesterday. I thought it was the most dominant performance in the league. Some of it was Arizona, but some of that was LA getting right.
Teddy, last game up here for the opening line report each and every Monday, sportsmemo.com or wherever you're downloading your podcasts, and also simulcast on YouTube with the video. Teddy, we got 159, 160 next Monday nighter here. New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles -8, seeing 8.5 out there as well. Also a -9 at Chris. 47 being the total here, Teddy.
Look headline here was 8.5. My powering number is 7. For the Giants, it's the same. I mean, there are two basic problems. They haven't solved either one all year. You know, Daniel Jones continues to turn the ball over multiple times every week. When you have a quarterback who's throwing picks or fumbling the football week in, week out, you know, it's really hard for your team to win games, and rookie QBs are going to do that. So that's not something that's likely to get better for the Giants. The Giants' defense has been god-awful all year, and it's not getting any better there either. You know, from a personnel standpoint, they are deficient. And it shows week in, week out. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers picked that defense apart yesterday without any trouble. All that said, you know, I talked about what the best team was yesterday. The most crushing, disappointing loss can't go any further. Like Philly's up 2 touchdowns against 2-win Miami on the road in the second half, and they lose that game outright and lose it badly. You know, they're trailing by 2 scores in the fourth quarter. And the Dolphins score on every red zone possession, 4 of 4 in the red zone. And Fitzpatrick picked that defense apart. Okay, the first half, the pass rush was there. The second half, against the bad offensive line, it wasn't. And the secondary got absolutely torched. So, you know, Philly's 5-7, okay? The quotes from Peterson after the game were, "I'm worried about our confidence." You know, they can still win the division. They're not a team that I'm excited about laying more than a touchdown with. And, you know, I just can't see money pouring in on Philly unless everyone talks about the must win, and oh, Philly must win. They're not an appropriate favorite in this range. And yesterday's game clearly showed it.
Guys, we got a bonus section coming up next, but I do want to do a reminder on the coupon code TC299 at checkout for the rest of Teddy covers NFL and college football full season package. Sportsmemo.com will be available for the next 72 hours at sportsmemo.com. Coupon code TC299 at checkout. Shout out to @O_Blitz on Twitter. Teddy, he has a question here talking about opening lines in college football, actually, in the SEC championship game, Georgia at LSU. He's asking, one of my outs has LSU -6.5. Should I grab that, or do you think it will move the other way? And as we're looking at the Sports Memo on screen right now, it has moved to pretty much 7 across the board. That's LSU laying in Atlanta, neutral site game there for the SEC championship game. I guess just throw it over to you. Opening line report style for this one game in college football, Georgia at LSU, Teddy.
Yeah, I apologize for not getting to you earlier. Otherwise, I'd have said 6.5 is a great bet. Bet it now. But you know, the markets have moved to 7. There are 7.5s out there, and the 7.5s are at the leading indicator books. You know, so there's a clear interest in the LSU side in this ball game initially. It feels like a 7.5 all week kind of deal, but I don't think you're going to see 6.5 again. So if you see a 6.5 anywhere, that's one to put in your pocket if you like the LSU side in that game. As to whether it's going to land 7 or 7.5 and what it's going to be at kickoff, you know, it really feels like right now it's like 7.25 with the 7.5s at even 7.5s are plus 100 and the 7s are minus 120. So it's like 7.25 right now. It feels like it's going to be in that range. Georgia's got some strong defensive numbers, but LSU's got some pretty strong offensive numbers and a pretty big betting bandwagon. I don't have a sense that it's moving off of the 7.5 for what it's worth. So anything that you see that's not one of those two numbers is a bettable number right away.
Great stuff, Teddy. Overall, like always, each and every Monday, sportsmemo.com, NFL opening line report with Teddy covers. Teddy, anything else you wanted to throw out there before we shut this down?
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Check us out every Monday right here on the opening line report. And I really appreciate it. I've gotten a ton of great feedback from the show. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it, and we'll do it again next week.
Absolutely, Teddy. I couldn't be more grateful as well. All the guys on Twitter, even when we're out there at the sports books, people shouting out the opening line report. So Always appreciate that, guys. And each and every Monday, we will be out with the NFL opening line report at sportsmemo.com. So for Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. We'll be back with the college football every game on the board podcast here. Championship Saturday coming up, so we'll be breaking them down. And also the FCS matchups on Saturday as well, with Mid-Major Matt coming up later in the week. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets. We'll talk on Wednesday.